Hi, welcome to Kearsarge Valley Magazine. I'm Stephanie Perkins with Charlie Chan, and this is
Gail Matthews. This weekly program brings you the news and interviews of the people and places that make the Kearsarge Valley such a great place to live, work, and play.
I want to be New Hampshire. I love New Hampshire naturally. As I sail upon the breeze, feel the earth beneath my skis, paddle down a stream or cast a fly, wander through a village square, breathe the cool, clean mountain air. I know how it feels to be New Hampshire high. Oh, New Hampshire, New Hampshire is where I want to be. I love New Hampshire naturally. I love New Hampshire naturally. I love New Hampshire naturally.
Stephanie, I don't want to go back to the old days. I really don't. Here, it's coming. Look at that. It's coming. Is this New London water?
we're in New London, aren't we?
No, but I meant like, is it a well or is it?
No, it is not a well. I don't know where it comes from, but don't drink it.
Don't drink it.
I call it bilge water.
Bilge water?
Okay.
Imagine women had to do this all the time before. I don't think men did it.
Well, they kept
just
in
built-
shape, didn't they, Gail?
Hopefully. Anyway, today we have a very special treat. We are at the Ice House, known as the Ice House in New London, that is owned by Mr. and Mrs. William Kidder Sr., and they're going to share some of the treasures with us, and we're going to have quite a tour.
Yes, we are. The Ice House is part of a group of houses that shelter quite a bit of history in the New London area, and the Kidders have enjoyed the hobby of preservation and restoration of the items within the Ice House and the other buildings, and we're going to take a tour. We'll begin with you and the Kidders in the first building.
And we shouldn't smell that water either.
No.
Bill and Petey, thank you so much for letting us come here to this special place to talk with you today, and you have so many things to share with us. But I'm meeting you for the first time. I know you've known Stephanie since she was in diapers, so that will be a different kind of interview as she takes you through the different buildings. But I don't know too much about you other than this resume has totally impressed me, Bill. I mean, what it doesn't say is a lifetime of achievement, and it's all here for, you know, anyone to look at. University of New Hampshire, 1936, and World War II, and serving New London for 40 years, and now I understand that you're the second most important man in the state of New Hampshire.
That is not necessarily true. That's a pure rumor.
Why would someone say that? Because you're the head of the appropriations?
That certainly wasn't on.
No, it wasn't. Somebody told me that.
Well, you know, as chairman of appropriations, you have your hand in everybody's pocket, so there are a lot of people that feel you have a lot of authority.
And nothing can be made, no decision can be made on what gets spent unless you put the final stamp of approval. Is that true?
The appropriations committee, pretty much determines what the budget will be.
Well, you've served your state, and you have too in magnificent capacity. But today we really want to see what keeps you busy outside of all the other work. So why don't we start with this first rare model?
Well, this is a 1904 Model C Ford. Ford started business in 1903, and this is the 1,011th car that Ford built. So it's a very rare model.
And you and Petey started this collection when, or when did you start?
I was in the garage business here in New London with my father, and I was always interested in cars, and so once in a while you'd find an unusual car, and I'd say,
And you'd say you'd keep it. Well, you had foresight to do it. That's great.
But really the main thing is, I think it's important for younger people to realize that the thing that made this country great is Yankee ingenuity. And there are many examples. As you go through, you'll see a real Yankee ingenuity.
Of how we keep improving. And we have a long way to go yet.
Oh,
We've
sure.
just begun.
Just started.
Just started. Well, now you two have been married for over 50 years,
Yes,
and you have 2 sons.
2 sons, Bill and David.
And he's a native for many, many years, and you're a Flatlander.
Yes. Came all the way up from Massachusetts.
And you're very happy to be up here.
Oh, of course.
She came from Arlington and came up to Colby.
And how did you two meet?
And well, we had friends who were at Colby at the time, and so we got together through our friends.
On a blind date, I
On a
might
blind
say.
date?
Yes.
Love at first sight?
No, we met and went to some dances and went our separate ways, and finally we went to another dance and it clicked.
And you,
Whatever reason.
and you have 4 grandsons,
4 grandsons,
and
6 to 17.
you have 2 sons, David,
David and Bill,
and David is affiliated with New London Fuel,
exactly, and the general store over in George's Mills
and Bill is the president.
of the New London Trust.
Right, our wonderful sponsors. Now, could you take us down to another copper model that was hand-built for you?
Sure.
Bill, that would be fun to see.
Oh, I'm used to getting in and out of these things.
We'll get to see all of, you have Antique Auto #1, I notice. Do you have a story behind that?
1954, groups had gotten together, and a lot of states had, at that time, had special number plates. So I went down to Concord with a couple other fellows. Bud Lauritsen was one of them.
Right.
And we talked about plates, and so the commissioner said, go ahead, we'll try it. And so we got a bill through the legislature authorizing these.
And that's the #1 plate.
That was the first plate they
The
built,
first plate, that 54 one up there.
And I'm glad it's our New Hampshire green. Can you tell us, why don't you come back here and tell us about this? This is a 1914. I love the way you have everything in this area totally marked and labeled.
First of all, over on my right is a 1914, what they call a Model T Ford Speedster. And years ago, at that era, if you were wealthy and wanted to be a sportsman, you had either a Stutz Bearcat or a Mercer Raceabout. But those cost around $6,000 in 1912 and 13. So a lot of fellows who had the spirit but not the cash took a Model T chassis and made this up into what they call a speedster. And so this is a poor man's speedster.
I think we have to get Petey up in there, see how it works. Can you make that one, Petey?
And the
Which side?
there you are. That's right, Mom.
What a beautiful steering wheel. What is that made of? Oak?
There.
What a
Hard maple.
Oh, what a gorgeous steering wheel. And everything is restored so beautifully. Do you do
This
this?
is a monocle windshield. So anyway, to get back to our other story, I went over to get a piece of brass at a brass shop, which was over in Sunapee. And a young man who cut the brass for me was working on a lamp, not a lamp, a model of a steam engine. And I saw that, and I said, well, how would you like to try making a car model? And he said, gee, I'd love to. So his father and mother brought him over, and they took about 40 pictures of this car. And about 3 months later, he said, I've got it. And Petey and I went over, and this was it.
And he made this.
He did the whole thing, every bit of it.
Look at that. All
It's
copper.
really, yeah, solid copper.
And a little
brass. See,
brass.
this is the exhaust whistle. And and he even put the #1 plate on the back.
The name is Stephen Morse of Unity?
Stephen Morse, and
Unity.
they moved to Unity. Yeah.
And is he still doing this sort of work?
Yes, the family still have a brass shop.
So if anybody wanted to have something special done of, you know, their horse or
Absolutely, they
car or whatever,
specialize in
and
weather
do this.
vanes.
This is just
This is
beautiful.
certainly one of the first that they did.
And look at the quilting on the seat.
Uh-huh.
And here's the monocle again. Oh, this is beautiful.
And these are 2 headlights, 2 bottoms of 2 olive bottles.
Now,
This is how
what gave you
ingenious he
such
was.
a sense of history? You know that it should be preserved and every little thing should be saved.
Well, I think if you've grown up with it all, you just sense it. And I just feel that the young people have got to realize that really it's so important to realize where we came from and how we got there.
Because we can't go further without knowing what our roots were.
Absolutely.
Now, this brings me up with another important subject. You have started something here that is filled with love and care and just a wonderful sense of perfection here. You and your wife have this. Are you planning on making it go any more, say, to the Shelburne Museum? That's what Mrs. Webb had wanted to do, too. Do you see this becoming something like that?
Well, you know, we're both almost 80, and so our
That's hard
time
to
is
believe.
limited. So,
No, your time has just begun.
Thank you. You're very kind. But we'll do as much we can. But because of the land and so forth, we are limited.
But you are thinking of
Little by
maybe-
little, if we see something very interesting, we pick it up.
Well, that's good. This
Maybe.
is something she did too, and she now has the #1 American art museum in the country.
That's
She
right.
saves Americana.
Yeah.
She did save Americana. All right, let's proceed on.
Before we head to the next building, Petey, you have a story about this car.
Yes, this car, Model T, is, what year is it, Bill? 12?
1911.
1911. Ford Model T was the first car that Bill acquired for his collection, and it came from the Denver Automobile Club in Denver, Colorado, and some young friend of Bill's was coming back from the West Coast, and he had bummed to Colorado, and when he got to Denver, he decided he was sick of bumming, and he thought he'd try and find a car to drive the rest of the way home, and this is it. And so when he got home, he needed a couple of tires for another car that he had. So he came to Bill at the garage and said, I got to have a couple of tires, but I don't have much money. And so they decided that they would swap, and Bill would give him the 2 tires, and he left the Model T Ford. Was there some money that went with it, or was it just the swap?
Just the swap.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It was an even swap.
Even swap. Sounds like a good deal for you, Bill.
But that was far away and long ago when that's the sort of thing that could happen. But that's the story of this wonderful car. And then it's sort of a special thing. There's now I know you can't get it on the camera perhaps, but in here is a lovely little clock, and it has a little hood that comes over it to protect it from the weather, because lots of times one would be out in the weather. Well, the story of this clock is that it was a present from Dr. H. Leslie Sawyer, who was formerly president of Kobe Junior College, and he gave this to Bill many years ago and told him that when he was a little boy, Dr. Sawyer, was a little boy, he talked with his mother about what he could get for his father for Christmas. And he thought he'd like to get him a clock. So the mother said, well, you go and get the Sears Roebuck catalog and see what you can find. And he picked something out that was, they thought would be the right thing. And he could put this clock in his car, and therefore, or on his wagon, I guess it was. It was a car. And anyhow, Dr. Sawyer gave it to his father, but when the estate was settled of his father's, he happened to think to take this clock out and hid it for many, many years. But when he realized how interested Bill was in early things, he gave it to him, and we feel very proud to have that particular clock.
It's a nice addition, and it looks like it has always belonged right with this Model T.
And it really runs.
Okay, and now on to the next building. Okay, wait. I'll have to wait till Gail gets out of the way.
Y'all can have a rice.
Follow after us.
Oops! Wait, I gotta go the right way.
There you are. You got it.
Yeah, you got it.
Hello, Gail. Hello. I'm just out for a little ride today.
These women had small feet. Maybe they can fit in the time.
Presumably those that the one that Gail
This is fun. Gail's having a fun time with this one. Gail, which rig are you going to drive home? We'll head down there one more time.
I don't know how they rode with great big skirts.
Girls, would you like some instruction on how to drive these?
That's what I want to do. I'm going to crash Oh, I like that you're in wicker.
So you have to be thinking.
You have to pedal one way, not the other.
You just stop. Yeah, exactly.
That's right. That's why these fenders are on.
And you can do this with your hands and on the... This takes more coordination, I think. No wonder I have trouble riding a bicycle.
Well, you trying to get off your trolley.
Get off that Charlie.
Bill, you have some interesting bells here. Can you explain the one that's behind the door?
Well, this one here is a trolley bell, and it's what they call a conductor's bell. And they used to ring this to keep the cows off the track.
Feel like I'm in San Francisco. That's great. And now this one is, it's actually a steam bell.
These were steam whistles.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was important so everybody could hear different sounds. And this is an old well casing, and we've sealed up the ends of it and mounted these on there, and they're blown by air. I'll blow them for you. I just put this on there.
Now they're loud.
This is a truck. We need to get it in up there. This is a modern day truck noise. And then this is a smaller whistle. And this is a locomotive. And this came from the fire station.
Very good. That's fun. Thanks, Bill. Now we'll go on to the next building.
Again, we have so much to see. I don't know how we're going to fit it all in, so we're just going to have to come back for another visit. But please tell us, Bill, about these different sounds on these. What are they, horns?
Well, once again, it's so important that children appreciate sounds of the past. And so we rigged this thing up so that they can hear them. And this is the first automobile. And then following that was the klaxon.
I love
Work
that
that by hand.
That's great.
And then we have a Model T horn. That's a Model T Ford. A little later. And then this is still later. And then this is a Cadillac horn, of early vintage. And if you were late to school, you might hear this. Or if you're speeding down the road, you might hear this.
Now, you are running that with a battery.
Yeah, I have a battery underneath
Okay,
here.
how would they have been run when they were, did they have batteries then?
Oh, sure. The early cars had
They
batteries. They had to
really
have batteries, sure.
There was no other way that they could,
No,
they didn't
ignition.
crank it or?
Yeah, they cranked them, but you had to have batteries.
So the batteries were invented when?
Oh, long before cars were.
Really?
They were using batteries, sure.
Well, before that they had sheep and goat power. And this is ingenious, and again, you were talking about Yankee ingenuity. This is called the ideal dog, sheep, or goat power, and they would hitch the animal to this?
The animal would come up on here, and it'd be hooked here, and then he would start to walk. And you can't see it here, but there's a butter churn on the end of it. And this is the way they made butter.
And this is the way they made butter. Isn't this something? Well, I have the 2 sheep. I'll have to bring them over and see if
Bring them over. We'll
and
try
see
them
if
out.
try it out. I don't think they'll like it though. How did they get them up here, I wonder?
They just jump right out. I used this one time down at Bob Bristol's farm. Have you ever been down there?
No, but they did
Well, they
jump right up?
had a dog, and the man says, I've got the dog, but I haven't got a treadmill. So I took this down there, and the man said to the dog, get up there and go to work. He jumped right up here and just stayed right there.
Now, you know something I want to point out also is the quality of workmanship. Now, this is a treadmill to do butter, but look at the quality. I mean, this is
Beautiful work.
furniture work.
Yeah.
It's just beautifully taken care of, nice and sanded, nobody could get hurt. Look at the turning here.
Yeah.
It's lovely. All right, and this is what you call a male chauvinistic
Butter churn.
butter churn. Now,
I think it'd
Petey,
be nice. My wife demonstrated that.
all right, that's good. Now, you say why it's male chauvinistic.
Well, she'll explain it.
Well, while I'm busy doing this, you can do the explaining.
Just see how easily it runs. And then you just let it go, but they put a foot pedal on it. And so the woman could peel potatoes while she's making butter.
Men didn't make butter then.
Oh, definitely not, no.
No. But they did make the barrel.
Absolutely, they made the barrel.
That's
And
great.
the mechanical work.
Oh, they could do a lot of things while they're doing that. That's wonderful.
While
Now,
you're at it,
where did this come from? It says London?
Ontario. This was made apparently in Canada.
Okay.
This is a cute little gadget, which is also a home affair. And this is the way they chop cabbage.
Oh, my heavens, look at that. Now, do you restore all of these tools?
Well, this one was terrible because it had been sitting out. It was all rusty.
Do you do the painting and everything?
Yeah.
You do.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
It's nothing.
Now, I'm interested in the Singer machine and how old this is. Petey
Well-
or Bill, do you want to talk about this one?
This came from, there used to be a store in New London, Benny Sargent's store, and he sold groceries. He also repaired harnesses and canvases and things like that. And his son had this, and he gave it to me a year ago. And so I cleaned it up, and it had been sitting down in the cellar for probably 40 years, so took some doing.
Now, when
He's going to come up next week and show me how to thread it. So
Oh, that's good. And you have some pants that need to be
Yeah,
trimmed, so
yeah.
you could do that right on there.
I'm going to call you.
You're gonna call me. Now, what about, how do you get this restored? I noticed the artwork on it.
The thing is, it was almost gone, and I cleaned it off with gasoline very gently, and then you put a coat of varnish on it, and that brings it out, so that saves it, protects it.
Now, how are you cleaning this so that you don't get the black,
Little knocks on
just
the
little knocks on?
toothbrush.
Okay. And what vintage did you say this would probably be? The year of this?
Oh, the early teens, I think, 1915, something like that.
Very good. And now I want to ask you one question before we leave here. We're standing in the actual ice house. How did it get to be an ice house?
This was a town, New London's ice house, run by the Shepherd family, and they also had the stable. And after many years, and electric boxes came in, this was in bad state of repair, and I bought it of Jim Shepherd, and that's why we have the sign out front.
The ice house.
Yeah.
Now, we would love to come back and do a show when you cut ice with all of the tools that you have here and the ice choppers, because I've never seen ice cut out of a lake, and that used to be very much a part of how we kept our refrigeration.
It was the second largest industry in New England at one time, cutting ice. It went to England, South America, Africa. We shipped all over the world in boats.
Well, this is something we should be thinking of then, Bill, for the people that have businesses today. Here today, gone tomorrow.
Right.
So we should be thinking a little bit in the future as to what will be staying around.
Exactly.
The ice has gone. Thank you.
Now outside the bicycle building, what's the big story about oil, Bill?
Well, these in earlier times, the oil came in barrels only, and so every morning you used to have to fill about 20 of these quarts. You'd come around here and push this back, and then fill the bottle, and then you kick back. And this was Mobile Oil E. It was a special oil for Ford cars, and it's especially appropriate for a Ford-interested collector.
Good, thanks. And over here we have the old air pump. These were used just a few years ago, actually.
Oh yeah, and it's similar to the type that they still use. You could wind this up and adjust the amount of air you want in your tire.
Okay.
And you didn't have to use a gauge, which was
And back then,
fancy.
air was free.
Free, absolutely,
Yes.
no cost.
Okay. And I like the price that you have on your gasoline, 15, almost 16 cents,
We've got to
includes
move
all
that up.
taxes.
We got to put a cipher in between.
Okay. Now, was this originally up
Yes,
at
it's
the
one of
Kidder
the-
Garage
one of the
building on the corner of North Pleasant and Main?
This is one of our pumps.
Okay. Why don't we go on into the garage now and take a look at some of the bicycles and fire equipment. Bill, this is the largest fire extinguisher I've ever seen.
Well, actually, these were used in factories. And if they had a problem, why somebody on each floor of the factory would have one of these.
Okay.
And then they would run to the fire, and it's a huge fire extinguisher, exactly what it is.
Sure
Whereas
is.
over here, this is the type that 4 men ran down the street with, and this has a 50-gallon tank on it.
Okay.
And it's very similar to the one that used to be in New London, which was kept in Shepherd's stable, and kept in the
Oh.
stable office because of the heat in there. So this was the only fire equipment the town of London had at one time.
Well, I hope they didn't have to use it too often. Now, this is an interesting cart. It's an electric cart, is that
It's
right?
a little electric cart, and they were sold by F.A.O. Schwartz in the 20s, and for children to ride around the states with,
Okay.
and they're really pretty rare today.
Now, someone important wrote in this one.
And we've got this little picture sitting in here because this is a picture of my son David and the President of the United States. He wasn't president at that time, but it's George Bush and David driving down Main Street in London.
Okay, February of 80.
February 1980, and this was
Okay.
from Newsweek magazine.
Good. And now on to these bicycles. We have one over here that looks quite
That's a
interesting.
very early ladies' bicycle.
That's nice. And then these large ones that are towards the
These here
front of the
are,
shop?
what they call, actually their proper name is ordinaries, but other people call them high wheelers or penny farthings, and they were used in the 90s.
Okay. I've seen David's has ridden these ones before.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
David ride them.
Yeah, so maybe we'll see them come hospital day going down
Usually
the
somebody
road
has
in the
one.
parade.
As a matter of fact, Harold Bucher was one of the first ones to ride these in one of these in the hospital day parade.
Okay. Very good. We'll head on to the next shop.
Fine.
Well, I think, Petey, you ought to show us this switchboard and the phone up ahead as we're in this building.
Well, now, let me just show you what little I know about switchboarding. And for instance, if a person called and wanted to call a number that was not on their line, they would have to call the operator, and she would plug in and place the call for you for somebody else in town or whatever. However, if you just wanted to call your neighbor, you would simply, there might be 8 or 10 people on the same line, and you would ring, like if you wanted to call your next door neighbor, 2 rings, and that would reach the next door neighbor, and without having to go through the operator. And there you were, and then all the friends and neighbors could listen in, and if they wanted to, and hear the conversation or put in their 2 cents worth. It was very chummy.
Well, you know, we think that we've invented something so new with our three-way conference calls the business people have. I mean, this was done way back then, and it was very easy to do. We could discuss, you know, potluck suppers or committee meetings or whatever.
That's
so nothing.
right.
It is nothing new. The wheel goes round.
Well, I know it. Isn't there a saying that nothing new in the world?
Just
Well,
reinvented.
There you are.
Now we have your husband locked up in the phone booth.
Yes, you better
But
let
it's
him
air
out.
conditioned. We'll let him out. 1 second, but I want to tell you something first. Joanne Spencer, who follows us on and helps out with all of the technical with Will James, said that he's a really cute man. And I love the way he calls you Mom.
Oh, yes.
That's very
Well,
dear.
Bill would love it if you think he's cute, because he's got more girls than you can possibly imagine. They all love him, and I love them all.
Well, he has the best girl of all. Oh, can we let him out now? Here he is.
Oh.
Now, why
Nice
is
to
that
see
air
you.
conditioned? That is strange.
Some friends of mine in the legislature knew that I was interested in old things, and this was in a fancy hotel in Boston, and they heard that they were closing down, so they went down and brought it back to me. And actually, the fan is on there to take smoke out, so that if you were smoking, smoking a cigarette, yeah. that's,
But it would not be on the side of a road. I mean, this was specially
no, this
designed.
was in a
Normal.
very fancy hotel in Boston.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Will James is very interested in this piece of machinery, and I think, Bill, you better explain it to us,
Well, this is
what
a
it is exactly.
moving picture projector, and my father put it in the town hall in New London, the brick hall up here, in 1923. And at that time, there was, in the whole area, there was no other movies, so we used to have movies Wednesday and Saturday nights. And the admission was 35 cents for adults and 25 cents for children. And of course today you wouldn't be able to do it, but in those days they put 400 people in the town hall for a real good show.
Well, that's just neat. Now, what about this? What makes this machine special? I noticed patented in 1916. Where the film would go in here?
That's right. And also they were run by arc lights. And I don't know whether you've ever seen an arc light.
No, I haven't.
But they, the 2 pieces of carbon come together, and when they touch, this makes the light. And the movie projectors today use exactly the same thing. So don't look too closely at it, but I'll show you how it lights. And so this is the way it works. And this is the light. You open this up, and then you'd...
And then this is where the film goes.
This is the film, and off we go to the movie.
And of course, they weren't rated then. They just all were good movies that you could see.
All good, wholesome movies.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is what the Kearsarge Valley magazine is, by the way. We have a lot of little children and young people that watch us, and they like it because we keep happy.
Good. And it's so important. And
it
this
is.
made people happy. You know, in those days, there wasn't much to do in the late 20s, early 30s.
Churn butter on the chauvinistic churner. That's what there was to do.
It gave them something to look forward to on Saturday night.
Oh, that's neat. And I understand we have a very special car in this building. It's called the Gott Wing.
We have, but my wife had better tell you about it.
All right, well, she has to also tell us about the Gott Wing, this whole building that we're in. Yes, we have to know about that. How did it get that name?
Well, that was, Gott was my maiden name, and so that's how this got to have that name. However, one day I came down after not having been here at the Ice House for quite a bit, and I saw this appendage on the building, and I said to Bill, "What is that?" And he said, "Oh, Mom, I needed some more space," and so I forgot, and I put it.
And just put it on.
We just went ahead and did it, and it tickled all my friends as well as Bill. So because I was so huffy about the whole thing, that I didn't know, and anyhow. Bill got the sign made for the Gott Wing because he decided, and my friends, that they were really going to rub it in. And then one of my very best friends did a piece of needlepoint. And can you see this?
The Harriet Gott Wing with a car on it.
Yes, and this was, of course, to be hung in this part of the building. And she, like everybody else, the girl who did this, just were in hysterics over Huffy me. And anyhow, that's the way it got named.
A beautiful piece of needlepoint, and we'll just dust it off before we pass it back to and let's go on to your car.
All right.
The car is 1937, but presented to you in 1987?
37.
Mm-hmm. And when did you get this car?
Bill's trying to signal me, I guess. I got this. Bill gave it to me for our 50th wedding anniversary in 1987. And he had discovered that this car was available in Florida and finally had it shipped up here. But the reason that it's so special is that it was a car like this that we went to Washington on our honeymoon.
Oh, wow.
50 years ago at that time. And
he's not only cute, he's thoughtful. How do we get all the other men to be like that?
Well, I could really do a whole show on how thoughtful he is.
Oh, that's just neat.
But anyway, this was his present to me, along with other innumerable wonderful things. But this is so special because it brings back such great memories and so forth. So I love this car.
Now, where was the honeymoon? Washington, D.C. or Washington State?
Washington, D.C. Lord, we couldn't have afforded to go to Washington State. We were lucky to have the money to get
go
there.
to Washington, D.C.
As I remember, we had 10 cents in our pocket when we came home from our honeymoon. That was it. And then the license plate on this car is 3787.
Well, this is it, 87,
and
when he gave it to you?
Bill even had this made so that it would commemorate the occasion. And so it's just totally special in every way.
Very special. Very, very special. And the Greyhound on the front is the Ford signal symbol.
That's right. And it was really, I think, probably an extra that you bought to put on to make it look more elegant, but it was a Ford symbol.
Beautiful. All right, let's go with Stephanie and Bill into the next building.
This is an interesting piece of machinery here, Bill. What is it and how does it work?
This here is a washing machine, and of course this is a wringer. But the interesting thing is that these little one-cylinder engines were used on the farms, and they're used for many purposes: grinding corn, washing clothes, many things. As a separator. Many of them use them as a separator. So if you'd like to, I'll show you how this works.
Sure.
Maybe it'll start and maybe it won't.
Sure. Petey, do you think this could fit in today's kitchens?
Well, I think it would be just a very interesting thing to have in the middle of your kitchen floor. It just boggles my mind.
There you go. And this is the way they used to wash their clothes.
Automated.
Automated.
That's wonderful. Terrific. And then up here on the wall, you have an interesting saying here back in the 70s when we had the gas
during
shortage.
The gas shortage. And it was a very serious thing for us all. It was during the winter time, and we had very little gas. Everybody was rationed. And so I put this sign out because out in front of our garage we always had a Christmas tree loaded with lights, and during the Christmas season. So at that time we were short of Christmas lights because nobody was supposed to use any extra electricity, so we put one bulb in the tree. We were short of gas to sell at the garage, and we also are fuel oil dealers, and we had trouble getting enough fuel oil. And so even a little short on wood, but we're not short on Christmas greetings. And I got Bud Larson to make that sign.
That's the best Christmas greeting card I've seen.
The short on wood was a little cart, little sleigh, and I put the wood in, and that was sitting underneath the tree.
Cute.
The
Good.
passers-by wondered, but they did appreciate it.
Okay, and now why don't we go on and see the next piece of machinery? This piece of machinery really interests me. What is it?
Well, this is a Ryder Erickson hot air pumping engine. Someone was in the other day and said, this must have come from Washington. However, in the early days on Lake Sunapee, the wealthy people built cottages, and at the top of the cottage they'd have a 1,000-gallon copper tank. And down in the boathouse would be this machine, this hot air pumping engine. And the chauffeur would get down in the morning, and when it got so hot that you couldn't put your hand on here, he would spin the flywheel, and it would pump 2,000 gallons of water an hour up to the copper tank. And this is the way the folks had their running water.
So they'd have a good supply of water.
That's right.
That's interesting.
This one actually came from down in Newbury.
So it was actually used on Lake Sunapee. This one right here. Great.
And I didn't know much about it, and so I went to wrote to the Smithsonian in Washington, and they did send me this manual. So they
Okay, so now you know how to run it.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Why don't we go on and see the #1 fire engine for the town of New London?
Okay.
Ready to respond to that fire.
The Lamson property is on fire.
Oh no, we better hurry. What's the story behind this fire engine?
This was the second fire engine that New London had. They had a Model T, and then this was bought in 1926. And I looked up in the records, and it cost, at that time, $6,000. The town of New London paid $1,500 down, and then the rest in subsequent years, $1,500 a year until it was paid for. And it was used in New London all those years until 1949, when they traded it in for another one. And unfortunately, or fortunately, the man stopped at our garage to get some gas because he was going to take it down to Boston, having brought the brand new fire equipment to New London. And I said, I'm sorry that you're taking this out of town, because my father was chief when it was first purchased. And he said, are you interested? And I said, sure. And he said, I'll tell you what. He said, you take me to Potter Place and buy me a ticket to Boston and give me $200, and I'll leave the goddamn thing right here. And that's how this stayed in New London.
Well, we're glad that you saved it. Thanks for doing so. And now on to the privy.
To you from the privy at the Kidder's Ice House, we would like to say thank you, Petey. Thank you, Bill Kidder. You've been wonderful to let us come take a tour of everything. I don't know why we ended up here, but it's very interesting, isn't it?
It's a nice ending.
Anyway, just before we end, Petey is fantastic, and I think that Bill should give seminars to the men of this area totally on how to be a great husband. Would you agree with that, Petey?
Oh, I certainly would.
All right. And we'd like to just read a few things that have gone on in Mr. Kidder's life. And why don't I start with University of New Hampshire, where he received his Bachelor of Science in 1936. Then World War II in the European Theater in the infantry. He was a lieutenant colonel. And New London town clerk for 40 years. Steph?
And and New Hampshire Town Clerk Association. He was the president of that for 2 years. Also the president of the New London Trust Company since it originally chartered in 1958 to 1984, and chairman of the board in 1984 to present.
And the president of the Kearsarge since 1964 and director of King Ridge for 20 years and clerk of the New London Water Department for 20 years.
Commander of American Legion Post Number 40 and member of the Executive Committee and deacon for the First Baptist Church. He's also, or was president of the Profile Automobile League of New Hampshire.
And New Hampshire Oil Man of the Year and the State Grange Good Citizenship Award and the Colby Sawyer College Town Gown Service Award.
The William Bell Award by the New London Boys Club, member of the New Hampshire Legislature since 1971, and chairman of the Appropriations Committee of the New Hampshire Legislature since 1981.
Member of the University of New Hampshire Alumni Board, Board of Trustees for the University System of New Hampshire since 1984. And I'm just so tickled that he let us come here to see both he and his wife.
Yes.
It was really nice. I'm sorry we ended up in here.
But we could go on and on and on.
Yes.
We could go into the tin shop and the blacksmith shop.
Right.
And, there's a lot to see here, and I think we could spend a couple another years here. What do you think?
Well, we have a great idea for him, and we're going to have to pass it along to him privately, and maybe we'll get to see more of the things later
Okay.
on. Okay, now I have the book of the week, and Carlton has done it again. I don't know how this man always seems to pick the perfect book for the show, but he has. And it's called It Happened in New Hampshire, and it's by Fairfax Downey, who has written so many good books about New Hampshire. And I understand, Stephanie, that he just died, and it will be a loss to the whole community because he writes very well. He went to Yale, and he's lived in West Springfield, New Hampshire for 25 years. And this book I like in particular because it says something about the Flatlanders. People born and bred in New Hampshire bear the state's imprint, and so in time and in measure do people who move to New Hampshire, that's me, you've been here forever.
Yes.
Traits of character, a way of doing things, and a manner of speech defined the New Hampshire way. And these are 43 true stories that have happened and been told to him. It's really wonderful.
It looks like good reading, Gail.
And we pass on our condolences to the entire family. But isn't it wonderful that a man could leave something like this?
Yes.
Now, you and I are going to, what are we going to be leaving behind? We have to think about
The
it.
Kearsarge Valley Magazine
Oh,
tapes.
come on. All right, the house of the week?
This week's house is a unique condominium located at the southern shore of Eastman Lake in Eastman Community. Stunning design features 3 bedrooms and 2.5 baths. One of Eastman's original post and beam buildings. This home contains some of Eastman's history with its large fieldstone fireplace. And Eastman Community offers swimming, sailing, tennis, a championship 18-hole golf course, and skiing, both downhill and cross-country. It's on 3,500 beautiful acres. And you can call Eastman Lake Realty for more information on this home, which is offered at $345,000. And you can reach Eastman Lake Realty at 863-4444 or call your local realtor for more information.
And again, a lovely home in the area
Yes.
for sale. You know, I wanted to say something on behalf of privies everywhere. You don't have to worry about ice building up in your pipes. Totally can be cleaned out real easy with a whisk broom. You have wonderful privacy. I mean, no one's going to bother you back here. And you've got lime to put down to keep it disease-free.
Sure.
Sure. I think we'll have one made out.
I think we'll have to go back to privies, don't you
Does this
think
house
so?
have a privy that you're selling?
No, this one, it has indoor plumbing.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks to the New London Trust and McKenna's Restaurant for bringing this program to you each week. And we hope you have a happy, healthy, and safe week until we meet you again in another place in the Kearsarge Valley with another neighbor. And this week our thought is from Winston Churchill and George Peterson. If one is not a liberal at 21, one has no heart.
And if not a conservative at 45, no brains.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Oh, I love her in the spring,